In this vid, I'm going to be reviewing another deck of Pokemon2215. This one is a Samurott Feraligatr variation, and I think it runs much smoother than his last deck. So let's take a closer look at the list because there are a few things I think we can change. The starters that he's chosen for this deck are Mantine, Delibird, and Slowpoke. The Slowpoke's attack of Rambunctious Party allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put as many basic Pokemon as you find there onto your bench. Delibird's attack of Snowy Present allows you to draw 1 card for every energy attached to all of your Pokemon, and Mantine's Group Swim allows you to search your deck for a water Pokemon and put it into your hand. While I think these are okay starters, the only one that I would keep is the Delibird. I wouldn't use Delibird early game because I doubt that you're going to have that much energy attached early on. I would use something like Cleffa or Manaphy to shuffle in and draw a new hand, and then after you get your Feraligatr Prime set up and you're really starting to add some water energy, you can always use Delibird to stall in order to get something else set up. You run a 1/1 Suicune Entei Legend line. Essentially that works like Blastoise. It snipes anything for 100 and then returns 2 water energy to your hand. The downside is that it's a legend. Once it's knocked out, your opponent gets 2 prizes, and I think it would be better if we just drop the Suicune Entei completely. I do like your tech though, of a 2/1 Zoroark. I'd recommend increasing this line to a 2/2 Zoroark because you never know when this one might come in handy. So let's take a look at the main Pokemon in this deck. Your big tech is Feraligatr. You run a 2/2-1/1 split line, which means that you're running 1 Prime and 1 of the regular non-holo rare. I would recommend that you drop the non-Prime Feraligatr and increase this line to 2. The last thing you want is your 1 Feraligatr Prime to be prized, because that's really going to slow down this deck. Your main attacker, though, is Samurott. You run both Samurotts, 1 ability and 2 non. While I like both of them, Samurott Pike is great for sniping babies, I think as an attacker, the ability Samurott is better. So if you have 1 more ability, I would probably swap this around to 2 ability and 1 non-ability Samurott. You run a 3-3-3 line of the Samurotts, and I think if we throw in some rare candy, we can make that a 3-2-3 line. Same thing with the Feraligatr. A 2-1-2 line would make the deck a lot faster with the addition of rare candy. Taking a look at your energy line, the first thing I notice is that you run 2 basic dark energy. We can swap that out to 2 special dark to allow Zoroark to hit for 10 more every time he attacks. You run 13 water energy in the deck, and I think you could easily cut that down to around 9 and throw in some double colorless energy. Because both Samurott and Pike have their main attacks, or the attacks that you would ideally use, Pike and Hydro Pump, as colorless energy, double colorless could greatly speed up this deck before you get the Feraligatr Prime set up. Double colorless energy can also be used to attach Zoroark for its second attack Foul Play, because Feraligatr can only attach water energy to water Pokemon. Since Zoroark isn't a water Pokemon, you're going to have to manually attach per turn. That's probably not going to be a problem, however double colorless would greatly speed this up. So I'd recommend maybe running 3 or 4 double colorless, 2 special dark, and the rest water energy. Now let's take a look at the trainers and supporters. You currently only run 2 dual ball. If you have the Pokemon Collector, I would run a combination of 3 Collector and Dual Ball. This just ensures that you're going to be able to get those basic Pokemon out as fast as possible. You run 2 Interviewer, which usually I would say you wouldn't need in a deck that runs this many energy. However, using Interviewer and being able to draw maybe 4, even 5 energy cards off of that Interviewer, and then being able to attach them all with Feraligatr, means that the likelihood of you drawing a Pokemon or a trainer supporter that you need on your next turn, rather than just an energy card, increases significantly. You run 1 Black Belt, but I would recommend taking that out and putting in a Twins instead. Black Belt can help you take that extra prize, but Twins can help you get set up for the remainder of the game, which will give you a better shot at winning. For your recovery cards, you run 2 Energy Returner, which takes 4 energy cards from your discard pile and puts them back into your deck. I think Energy Retrieval would be a little more consistent because you can immediately reattach them with Feraligatr Prime. And I would also recommend throwing in a Flower Shop Lady so that you can return some of those basic energy cards back to your deck, but also throw in some Pokemon as well. 2 of the biggest additions to this deck are Rare Candy and Junk Arm. Junk Arm is going to let you reuse a lot of the trainers that you use in this deck. Because your deck relies on 2 Stage 2 Pokemon, the addition of at least 2 Rare Candy will help you get set up much faster. You run 2 Elm, which typically I'm not a fan of, however with more Vileplume decks expected to come out with the release of Pokemon Catcher, a supporter that can search for an evolution card is going to be very useful. However, I would recommend that you throw in at least 2 Pokemon Communication, if for no other reason that you can use Dual Ball or Pokemon Collector, and then swap them in for the evolution cards that you need. Your draw cards are currently 3 Team Rocket's Trickery and 2 Copycat. Since you're not running cards that rely on equivalent hand sizes, I would recommend dropping the Copycat and going with a combination of Pont and Juniper. I think 1 Juniper is enough, and throwing in 3 or 4 Pond would make this deck more consistent. To help make room for these changes, I think you can take out the 1 Good Rod, especially with the addition of Junk Arm. Overall, I think Samurott Feraligatr is a very solid deck. I think it's solid enough that you don't need the Suicune Entei Legend. I think a 2/2 Zoroark is enough of a tech to help you get out of any type predicaments. Thank you for watching, and if you would like your deck reviewed, just PM me the list and I'll get to it as soon as possible.